All right. So you're on the show because I came across your book,
Nice.
right? And how hard can it be? And basically, it was startup lessons from trying and failing to take down Facebook.
Yep.
So I don't know the whole story.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things I do is when I do Inner Edison podcast, so it's about your greatest accomplishments always become, your greatest feats always become your greatest accomplishment. I want to know what happened, your Edison moments, those kind of things. But were you trying to take down Facebook in where you are now, or was it a problem? I don't know the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah, I can run you through the whole story.
And the reason is I want to come into these not knowing certain things, because then I won't ask certain questions. Are you following me?
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. I mean, basically, I was working as a change management, so I was doing consulting, with large corporations, working on the behavioral side. So working with helping employees to upskill, develop certain, leadership skills, so as to have the competencies and the attributes to what we say cascade strategies internally. So in other words, how do you make the strategy really come down through the organization and make sure that it actually happens, it's implemented. And so we're doing that for many years, and a colleague and I, at the same time, so Facebook was really growing, picking up speed. So this is like 2010 or so. And we got really frustrated to the idea that so many people could spend so much time flipping through what we call then kilometers of nonsense. We couldn't understand why someone would, put pictures of their food that they've had, or just reshare a picture of a cat with a party hat. So we thought that was totally, a waste of time, and that we people had, should do better things with our time. And so we thought to challenge Facebook then with coming up with a new social network that would sort of bring back people into the real world. So because we came again from behavioral side, we thought that we knew so much about behaviors, and that we wanted to bring people into the real life and have them do stuff that actually would matter, for real, not just clicking stuff out of their sofas. So we were in a way the anti-couch potato network. That was the
name of. I guess you didn't do marketing surveys for that one, huh?
No. So yeah, that's the big idea. And the funny thing is that we had no experience whatsoever with building social networks. We're just management consultants, no prior experience into programming or anything like that. So we're really blue-eyed and optimist on the fact and the idea that we could really honestly disrupt Facebook. So we went for it, and we did the whole journey. We raised money. First we were incubated into a big incubator in the Nordics, where I'm sitting. And then we did the whole startup journey, as it is called. So we raised angel money first, and then a first round on the bit of traction that we got when we launched. And then, as the startup goes, quite a few pivots, and then we can take on the story on, why and how.
Well, all right. I mean, I'm like listening. This should be a movie. So
it's a book already. So,
I know it's a book. That's why it should be a movie. So, all right. So that's what you guys did, right? You did all the rounds. You got all the different investors. How, from start to that, did it go the way you thought it was going to go? Or were you like, I had no idea, so I didn't really know?
No. So what happened is that it's basically what we figured out after 2.5 years, pretty much, is that what we're trying to do, in a sense, was what we were trying to do when we were back consulting in change for large organization. It's basically a change journey. We're asking people to do stuff that they were not comfortable doing. So our mechanics, our engine for growth, if you will, as in startup terminology, was that we would so the mechanics for our platform was that we would challenge people through the platform. So I would challenge you to do, whatever, run a marathon, shave your head, whatever thing that I would think you would accept. And then you would do the same with your friends. And so the idea in theory was fantastic because quickly we can have that viral effect. And eventually we thought that, okay, loads of people are going to challenge themselves. We're going to have a lot of fun and things are going to happen into the real world. And they will have, something really exciting, something that would go viral. Turns out that whilst people did sign up because they could foresee for themselves, better versions of themselves, they did not complete anything because, to stop smoking is easy to say, but it's hard to do. To start preparing for a marathon, it's really hard. To learn Chinese or to commit to something. I mean, anything, whatever it is, to actually commit to something that you're not familiar with is by definition very hard. And so, the timeline, the deadline that we had for those challenges would come to a point, and then no challenge videos or proof, as we call them, would be uploaded. And so when you have a platform challenge that is supposed to be entertaining and fun and engaging with stuff happening on it, and there's nothing, it's like, YouTube without videos or Netflix without series. It's really boring. So at that point, we realized that, we needed to do something, and that's when we pivoted into the B2B, which is what we know best, right?
All right. Well, so my question wasn't that. My question was,
Okay.
during that journey of the 2 years and getting that money and doing that, did you know exactly did it go the way you thought that it was going to go to that point? Meaning that, okay, or it was the fact that you've never done it before, so you had no idea and you had people guiding you. How did you go through that process? Because a lot of people will go, I had no idea what was going on and I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So of course, I mean, just the first, just getting into an incubator, for example, was very hard because we thought, we come up with a nice story, nice narrative, a couple of slides, a bit of research, and then we're gonna get in because we have degrees and we kind of work with consulting and we're kind of smart. But turns out that, as I said, because we knew nothing, the first reaction from those people who were like the first gatekeepers, like, you guys are, high. You have nothing. So it didn't really go as planned. I mean, everything was hard. I mean, everything was complicated. We didn't have the competencies, so we had to go and make up a team that we didn't have. So convince people to come on board, be our programmers, give them shares in order for them to come on board. I mean, everything, the whole starting things was very complicated. And then, you tend to overdevelop things, especially if you don't know. So we ended up spending like at least a year of, MVP, like the first minimal viable product, where, coming up with whatever concept and thoughts that we thought people would be interested in. And in fact, it was just in our head. So no, it didn't go as planned. It took us like 2.5 years to fail the first big fail, basically.
Well, yeah, but you're learning, right? I mean, you're understanding how the process works, so that and I don't know if you did it again, but if you had another idea, you'd know how to get through the process much faster. And that's why most people who do startups, they've done multiple startups because they know how the process is and they're better at it the second, third, and even fourth and fifth time.
Totally.
But this isn't a startup show. This is not about that. It's about your journey and what you learn from what you're going through and all those little Edison moments that happen. And I'm sure there's a lot of them along the way in that 2-year period. But before I came back to this question, you were saying that you went to B2B now.
Uh-huh.
So what is it evolved into now, or is there something else you want to talk about before we get into that?
No, I mean, well, we tried all sorts of incentives because, I mean, as you said, did we know that it would not work on the B2C side? And of course not. So at first, when we launched and we see all those people signing up and we see them not completing the challenges, we naturally default back that the problem has nothing to do with humans. I mean, the problem is a tech problem. Obviously, the platform is not built the right way. Obviously, the sign-up process is complicated. The upload process is complicated. So you think that It's what you've built that is the issue. But as we kept, trying to incentivize people to make the whole process simpler, faster, dumber in a way. So initially we had our own sign up process, and eventually we decided to integrate with the devil, with Facebook, and have people sign up through Facebook so as to lower barrier to entries. So we learned a lot as we went through that process. But eventually, I mean, no matter what we tried, we ended up, it never went the way we wanted. And we came back to this conclusion that, hey, it's been now 2 years and a half. We've spent quite some money already. We need to do something. And that something turns out to be very simple in a way. So we had built that challenge platform, and coming from B2B, we just gave a couple of calls to former clients, and we're selling to HR then, so human resource people. And we told them, hey, we have this platform challenge. How about we challenge your employees? They were like, whoa, this is fantastic. So this is like 2015. It's new, it's fresh, it's exciting. I mean, if you are in HR and suddenly you can challenge folks to, anything like do X and commit to sales, or demonstrate the innovative core value that we have within our organization. What does that mean for you? So really engage people, making it exciting in initiative and in organization. So that worked really well, actually.
And is that still going now?
No.
Yeah, it worked really well. You didn't keep going, so I had to ask.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to get you keep going. I mean, because I want the whole story, and then I want to come back to some bits and pieces.
Okay. No, I can give you the whole thing. It's just I don't want to do just a plain monologue.
We're doing good. I'm interrupting you. We're going. Cool. Yeah, we're having a conversation. I mean, because it's important. It's important for people to understand that just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's what people want. And there's human nature in everything we do, and we have to make sure that the market you're trying to go to is going to do what you want them to do with what you're trying to give them, because that's what's important about marketing research and testing products and testing certain things. I'm not saying you didn't do that. I'm just saying that's important to do. And even if you do it, you're thinking, like you said, you thought it was your program when it was human nature.
Totally. No, I mean, there's a lot of learnings. I mean, we can, as we wrap up, we can talk about the bigger learnings. But so, no, it didn't work. It did work, but what happened is that, as we were selling those challenges to large organizations, I mean, medium-sized, large, we ended up working with, Fortune 100 companies, selling them challenges. That was easy. What was complicated was not so much the sales process. It was the length of the sales process. It would take so much time for us to, go to an organization, find the right, stakeholders, and sell to them, and make sure that they were all in agreement. Because it's not, when you challenge, 4,000 or 5,000 people in a global organization across countries, it's not something that you roll out, just by pressing a button. I mean, literally, you do press just the button and it happens. But to sell it, it's a lot of sell time, right? I mean, you're in sales, I know, and it's complicated. So, and then the implementation itself, I mean, we wanted to do something that would add value. So we were customizing those challenges, because a head of HR, or head of sales, or a head of quality or whatever in an organization would not necessarily think in terms of challenges. They had never done challenges before. So when okay, that's a great idea, but hey, what do we do? Well, just press the buttons, customize your own challenges, write a description, put a cover picture, and then press send, and people will receive the challenges and they do it. Turns out that if you are in charge of that process on the client side, it's not obvious, right? So we ended up doing a lot of hand guiding, a lot of teaching, and blah blah blah, and took forever. In the end, we ended up being consultants with a tool, and that was not the initial vision. The vision was to be a scalable platform, shooting challenges at scale. but that didn't really work that way. So it was not scalable. Basically, the model was not scalable. So we were making top lines, but it was not something that we could scale unless we would recruit an army of salespeople to bang the phone, and just sell challenges. And that wasn't really the vision, building a sales organization just to, make sales challenges. That was not quite the vision that we had. So we ended up slowly but surely going into our next iteration of the product, or the company, at least, altogether.
And all right? So you went from the original B2C to B2B, and now where's it at now?
So now what we realize is that, okay, the challenge idea is okay. It's hard to scale. It's like a one trick donkey. We need to add features. We need to make the thing more valuable, because otherwise we would be commoditized. People aren't really willing to pay plenty of money. After, we're hearing things like, but the internet is free. Why should I pay for this? So well, I can do the same on Facebook. Well, perhaps try and see what happens if you are big corporations. Do that on Facebook. So we realized that we had a value problem, and of course we could understand that coming from where we're coming from. So slowly but surely we add feature, and actually what happened is that we got very lucky. One of our project was then with the big automobile manufacturer, and after they had done a couple of challenges with us, they told us that they would really like to keep the challenge idea, but to build on top stuff that they would need. And what they would describe looked like then Facebook, but that you would use internally. So more of a central communication network, like a ESN as it is called today, enterprise social network. And so they would say, okay, we need that feature. And so we co-developed that solution together with them. And we ended up with something very, heavy, complex, quite a big solution, which obviously they bought because that's the one they designed themselves. And we made them pay for the development. So we thought it was a good deal. That worked kind of okay, but then we ended up no longer selling challenges and in a way competing with consultants, sales consultant, engagement consultant, strategy consultants. But now we're competing with Microsoft and IBM and Salesforce.com. So all those big systems that were slowly but surely going into social. So they had those big on-premise on-premise solution, and they were slowly, moving to the cloud and making those solution, again, cloud-based and social. And so, naturally, a small organization out of Stockholm, competing with those big monsters with thousands of developers, it was very hard to compete. So we were saying that we were the first internal social network. Little did we know that at the same time, Facebook themselves were developing their own social network, which they launched 2 years down the road. So we were educating the market, talking about social and how the next generation of employees would be working, social with gamified applications and things that are really exciting and enticing. And we're doing some legwork for then Facebook to launch what they called Workplace by Facebook. And after 2 years of struggling, again, we ended up having to wrap up because then we had been around for almost 7 years, burning quite some money, tried everything we could try then with the money that we had gotten, the time that we had, and we had exhausted all of our ammunition and we were tired. So after almost 7 years, we threw in the towel, and we said, that's it. We wrap up, we do something else. And the end.
The end. All right. So 7 years run, unfortunately. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't realize a lot of startups end up that way, right? Not all of them are so successful that they've taken off and billions and $1 billion later, the owners are. There's a lot of them that either get gobbled up in the beginning or they run out of, they burn all their cash and then they don't get any more cash. And I mean, they're great ideas, but most of the good ideas get gobbled up and then they're either not, they brought inside of something else. I'm just surprised that you weren't brought in under one of the other social media companies, you know?
Yeah. No, but there you have it. I mean, 9 startup out of 10 fail. So the success rate is 10%. And when we say success, the one that succeed, what by success we say actually manage to get to the 10 years, timeline or 10 years mark, and that doesn't even mean that they actually turn a profit, that everything is going well, and the founders are happy. No, no, no. They're just like afloat, like they
Like
on
Amazon.
survival mode.
Amazon
Right,
was that way for a very long time.
right.
So, right.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
mean, Priceline, dude, that thing went under for a while there. And they ended up giving, what's his name, the Star Trek guy, shares to talk about the company because they to keep promoting it and keep doing the stuff for years. And,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
wrong. I
yeah.
mean, the odds are definitely not in the favor of the entrepreneur. And so that's basically what led me to the next iteration, which is looking at this after having failed and looking at how much work we did, how much, how many successes we did have, because now I gave it to you in 10 minutes. But I mean, obviously in 7 years, we've done a lot. We met a lot of people. We traveled the globe. We pitched our thing to some of the biggest organizations. I mean, a lot of stuff happened. Valuation, team. We did a lot of things. But then, in spite of all the work and in spite of all those like dots of success that you would plot on a graph and realize that, hey, looks good, we ended up failing. And I was really shocked, really couldn't understand after all those years that, what happened? Why is it that we failed? And so I started to, rerun the story in my head, trying to understand where could that be coming from, and looking at the literature on startups. And I realized that actually most of the content that we get as entrepreneur, or even as general public, is all about success, right? It's all about the multi-zillions valuation and the unicorns and the Elon Musk and the SpaceX and Richard Branson and Amazon, and it's all fantastic and it's all looks good and easy. I mean, it's all about Gary Vee and the Kardashian and the crib and the Rolls Royce and whatnot. But that's just like kind of fake. I mean, this is a fake narrative. The truth is, it's hard. It's freaking hard. And so when I saw that, and I realized that there's actually no book that would take an entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur through the journey. I mean, the real journey, not 20 years down the road, I made it and I'm going to space. No. The real thing as it unfolds, how hard it is, how, nose you get, what you have to do to pivot, how you set your strategy, how you go to market, all the near disasters that you may have. I mean, we almost went bankrupt twice. All those stuff. It's always like the edge of it. You're always touching the edge. It's touch and go every time. So all those problems that you have in the startup, I didn't find any stories really about that. And then I thought, okay, if 9 startup out of 10 fail in spite of this enormous amount of success stories, maybe it's not so much success we should be talking about. We should be talking about journeys, about failure, about experiences, so that the next generation or even the guys that are struggling currently, they can understand that their struggle is pretty much the struggle of everyone. It's not that they're not alone. It's not that just them and no one else. It's everybody, really. So once you understand that, it's much easier to accept that, okay, this shit is hard, and let's let's keep going, because I know it's hard. But now with this illusion, this mythical thing that you just work a side hustle 9 to 5, after your 9 to 5 hours, and you make zillions, it totally blurs the real story, like the one that should be told. So I thought I'd write my own story. So I wrote a book about just that, the entrepreneurial journey. What does it take to run a startup, and it doesn't end up in a success? It ends up in, well, we sold the platform, okay, fine, but we didn't make any money, and I'm still okay. I'm still happy. I wrote a book about it, and life is okay. So just move on.
So you said you sold the platform?
Yeah.
Anybody I know bought it?
What?
Was it? I said, is it anybody we would know of that bought it?
Oh, no. Okay. Like a former sales partner of ours, who actually thought that they could leverage it themselves, which in a way is kind of also, it's a good thing, because even though we didn't make zillions, I still have to work today. I'm not on the beach sipping pina coladas. Nevertheless, we built something that was of such relevance that someone is willing to continue working with it, and continue bringing it to market in a different manner, perhaps. So the thing that we built still goes on through someone else. So I'm still happy.
Didn't sound that way, but okay. It's one of those things that you have to try. And I look at my example. I've owned companies and different mortgage companies, and they all didn't end in perfectly, but it's just journeys along the way, and what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. And you're right. The biggest problem is people see the airplanes, the Benzes, all that stuff, and then you have all these people hitch up Forex trading. You can make so much money with cryptocurrency and do this, do that, and people are trying to do the short route instead of the long route. But now with your journey and you're explaining it to people, and you wrote the book about it, you got to be thinking, all right, there's something else I want to build.
Sure. So I haven't left entrepreneurship since. So we stopped the company in 2018. Since I've written a book, I've been part of another startup, scale up, and now I'm back into a early stage startup. So I'm actually still in the trenches.
Right. Well, you've learned so much, right? In that first one that you can use for this next one and help people. And even, you can even consult on helping startups do it the right way, right? Here's how you don't do it. I'm not saying that's your story. This is not how you do it. This is what happened, but you can help them through the process. This is what you're going to see. This is what's going to come up there. Your first thing, they want this, and this, right? I know there's some people out there, but there's not a lot of people out there doing that.
No, exactly. I think with the whole mindset, mental well-being that has come, I think we're going to see more and more. At least I hope that it becomes something that people are more authentic, hopefully, and willing to share more of their real journey, and because they feel that it's good for them to do so. And so as we open up as people, hopefully we get more to the core of who we are really, and that helps accelerate the everyone's journey. So that's basically the essence of the book. I mean, today, so beside working with startups, I'm actually mentoring startups and entrepreneurs. I'm sitting in different boards of different startups, and yeah, I think my experience and my willingness to share it, because that's the problem. Up until very recently, people they believe that they fail themselves, right? They fail as a person, so they equate the experience to their own self-worth, and I think that's the big problem. So what I want to do with the book is really help people come out basically and say that, yeah, I too have failed, and I have this to bring to the table, and that makes me a better person, a richer person through this experience. So I think it's all good. As you say, it's all about learning. I mean, you don't really, whatever happens, you put stuff in your backpack and you carry it forward to the next step, right?
Right. I mean, it's like learning to walk. You fell down first.
Exactly.
Right. You have to make mistakes in order to learn from it. And the biggest thing is we always wanted to hide those things. We didn't ever make mistakes. And that's why I do the podcast Inner Edison, is because, our greatest accomplishments come from our greatest defeats. I mean, Edison, I mean, he learned 999 times how not to make a light bulb, right? So, and then that one time just happened. And so he could have gave up. And it's the same thing. 90% of the people quit right before they're successful.
Right.
And I'm not saying you should have kept going. I'm just saying 90, but what you've learned from this thing has helped you now mentor other people and start another company and do a lot from that. So, and that's great that you took this knowledge, put it in a book, and now is using it to help people. And I try to explain to people, your journey, you're going to come across things and then you can help other people go through the process. People meaning entrepreneurs, and help them know the journey so it's easier. And that's what it's about, learning that journey, and also having people there to help you through the process. Find those mentors, find those cornermen, strategic groups that you have to help you through that process so that you don't do it alone.
Oh, totally. And I've heard this thing that the stuff that you are the most scared of, the thing that defines you, or the thing that you want to hide, is actually your competitive advantage. It's actually what makes you you. And if you let go the ego and open up, it is what will enable you to become a better version of yourself. So I really took this to heart, and okay, I've lived that, and I'm happy to share it and hopefully help others through that learning experience. And if I judge by, if we get the same metrics, typically in startup, you look at traction. So how fast you get, confirmation of the stuff that you do is actually happening. It's good. Feedback from the market. Well, for the book, it's definitely working. So since I launched the book, nice commentary on it. I've had some very nice endorsements, and then I'm doing gigs and speaking events, and I'm sitting and being invited to contribute to other startups. So it seems that people want to learn from it, and that there is demand for that kind of content. So just from that perspective, it's been an okay ride since.
Just an okay ride.
Yeah, it's been good, right?
Well, I mean, you're just at the beginning. This is just the beginning. We need to talk again in a couple of years to see where you are at that point. But
how did I iterate on that book?
No, that book will be a success book. There'll be no problem. But even as you're successful, you need to make mistakes to keep going forward and learn. Because if you don't throw stuff out there and figure out if it works or not, you're not doing anything. And that's what you need to do. And people are afraid of making mistakes. But if you don't make mistakes, you're not moving forward. You're either making mistakes and learning or not doing. You have to learn from them.
Totally. So one of my big things actually is to be, there's a big saying in startups and beyond, is like, you should embrace failure. Like, if it comes, then embrace it. It's like, to me, it sounds very reactive behavior. Like you happen to fail, and then, oh shit, and then try to survive it. My strategy now is actually to proactively seek failure, and that means making myself uncomfortable by design. Trying to expand, go to the edge, pushing that edge constantly, because only by doing so and by being close to failure or actually failing, you will learn new things. And the stuff that you thought would be painful or would be hard or was scaring you up until the moment you did it, turns out it's not that scary. And you can apply that across all the buckets of your life, whether it's, I did some podcasts where I say I jumped from a 5 meters high platform into the water. I'm really scared about this. I didn't want to do it, but me being scared is actually me not knowing, because once you've done it, but there's nothing to be scared about. It's just like you have to rewire the way you think by going into the unknown. So if you apply that through the way you work, the stuff that scares you the most, just go for it. Nothing will happen. I mean, you're not going to be eaten by a lion, a tiger, or anything. There's nothing to be scared of. The only thing you're scared of is the one thing that you don't know. And most likely you're making a big story about it. And it's the story about, oftentimes, if not always, the fear of other people's opinion, right? The so-called FOPO. You're just afraid of what others are going to say about you or about what you did. But it's irrelevant. Just do the thing for yourself. Once you realize you do it for yourself, then all is fine.
Right. Now that's you said 5 meters. That was just how high of a thing you jump from?
Yeah, 5 meters. Yeah.
So that's 15 feet for us Americans. Right. It's 3 times. And the reason I bring it up is I did the Camino de Santiago, and the altitude was in meters.
Oh.
Right. And I was like, 1,500 meters, no big deal. Okay. Then you get there, it's it's 3 times that. So you're like, oh, okay, that's what that is. So sometimes not knowing certain things is a good thing, right? So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I brought that up because we actually start tomorrow 4 years ago, so yeah. So we did the Camino twice. We actually did the Camino from the France side. We didn't, we did 300 miles of it, not the whole thing, because we work, right? So we can't take the full 40 days off or 30 days off. But we did that one, and we did the Portugal routes. But what I'm getting at is that also those things make what you were talking about, making yourself uncomfortable. You said that edge of failing. It's about, for myself and everything I do, is same thing. You do everything that makes you uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're not really living and growing as a person. If we just do comfortable stuff, then it's easy.
Right? Well, exactly. And is that a life well lived? I mean, what's the entire goal? I mean, in the end, right, you will remember the stuff that you did, not the easy picking, not the TV surfing on your couch. You will remember the hard stuff, like the Camino that you walked, the jump that I took when I didn't want to, the startup that I created that was scary, or whatever, the marathon that I signed up to. So I mean, you just hear once, at least that's the only evidence we have for. So you might as well use every opportunity to try to augment yourself and try to do stuff that you actually want to do. Screw others people's opinion and just live your one life, right? Enjoy it.
And I think that's why we were talking earlier about human nature and how the challenges didn't work, right? Because most people don't want to be uncomfortable.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Most people want retirement and grape eating.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, most people want retirement,
and you said grape eating, right?
Yeah,
Is that
eating grapes and being foot massage.
I'm sorry, it was my accent got in the way. I apologize.
No, but it's true. People are, or at least we have been told that a great life is one that is comfortable, right? That you should.
But you got to earn that comfort.
True.
Right. That's how I look at it. I mean, I've done everything. I mean, I'm not done doing what I want to do. That's why I'm doing this podcast and a bunch, do speaking and other stuff that I'm doing. And it's because it makes me uncomfortable. And it's not like I'm speaking about stuff I do all day long. What I mean by that is I own a mortgage company. We do mortgages, buy homes, that kind of stuff. So we help a lot of people. I can talk about that stuff all day long, though. I'm blue in the face, just throw me on stage. I don't even have to think. But talking about failure, talking about sales and other stuff that, I do it, but it's not what I'm so easy to talk about. You have to prepare is a lot harder. And that's why I'm doing that kind of stuff instead of the easier stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. And I heard a gentleman in one of your podcasts talking about like cold showers and cold exposure.
Oh yeah. That was the guy that created the ice bath. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Professor there. I mean, that kind of stuff, like physical hard stuff that you don't want to do, is also something that you should do. So I do myself take cold showers and run when I don't want to. And here in Sweden, I don't know where you are in the US, but here it gets pretty cold, like -20, -15 Celsius. And yet I go out and I run. Sure, it would be easier to just watch TV, but it's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
So
we're on the other side of that. We get really hot. So I'm in California, Modesto, Central Valley, which we don't get to the freezing, but we get to the other side of it. So
yeah,
I can't tell you Celsius what that is because I don't know Celsius. I only know Fahrenheit. I'm a true American. Right. We didn't go to that. We were supposed to go metric and we never did. So
yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, no, I think we had a nice little chat. Would be happy to do another one at some point. And yeah, I think just live your life for your listeners. Fail. Put yourself in a situation where you can actually fail, and that everything will be okay either way, whether you succeed or you're not. And ultimately, it's all about the journey. It's all about the person that you become as you go through those experiences. So really try to augment yourself and get to 100+ years with a lot of wisdom and experiences. So yeah, that would be a nice final word.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And embrace the failures and explain and talk about them to other people. Because the more you talk about them, then other people will talk about them. And I'm just going to say one last thing, because I've been on radio and now doing these things for a while, and everybody knows everything about me now. I was a private person before I started radio, and now everybody knows everything that ever happened to me because it just comes out while you're talking. And that's important to let people know, so that when they go through those journeys and stuff, they understand that it's okay to embrace what happened to them, learn from that, and then move on. Right?
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, one last thing. I mean, thank you for having me. Much appreciated. It was a nice chat between two French men. And and yeah, people can reach out to me if they want some failing advice, or if I can support them in their own startup journeys. And the book is available everywhere, from Amazon to any retailers, Barnes and Noble or whatnot. Yeah, so happy to help people if they reach out.
Reach out to Arnaud.
That's right.
That's right. Reach out to him. His book is How Hard Can It Be? The book. And you can find that also at .com on there. You can find it there, but I got mine on Amazon, so it's everywhere. Again, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I want to thank everybody for showing up and listening and subscribing. And I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you, sir. You have a great day.